So we'll kick it off. If you are new to CFIN, which wouldn't be surprising because we're also relatively new. CFIN is an organization that was funded by the Strategic Innovation Fund and really kicked off its operations late last year. However, it is an organization that has been led by a number of food leaders and interested parties under previously the Canadian Food Innovators group. And now CFIN is sort of operationalizing a mandate from the Strategic Innovation Fund and Innovation, Science, and Economic Development. And we've created a national nonprofit. We are a member-based organization. Our membership is free, and I highly encourage you to sign up. We'll have a number of things available beyond just our programming, but all of our tools are really destined for members only. So that free membership will give you access to the Food Innovation Challenge that I go through today. And our focus is on stimulating transformative and transferable innovation across the food sector. And when we look at the food sector, we are really talking from farm gate. So we don't look so much at food production or agricultural activities. We're picking it up more post-farm gate all the way to consumer's plate. So we'll look at restaurants, food service, food processing, supply chain, obviously, given the theme of this call. We'll look at, technologies and technology providers who want to sell into the food industry. And we're looking to connect this food ecosystem and stimulate fresh ideas, technologies, further collaboration to help elevate business and increase our innovation capacity. Obviously, we have some great founding elements here in Canada around food. And so the ability to capitalize on that and drive innovation in somewhat of a unique sector. It's different than other traditional manufacturing sectors, for example. And then, of course, a real diversity of challenges and opportunities. So in terms of who we are, we currently stand at about over 1,300 members. We've done about $4 million in investments, and our team of 12 is now located across Canada. And if you look at our board and our Innovation Advisory Council and our staff, quite a deep set of experience in food innovation. What do? We offer funding programs. So obviously that really is in my purview and my job description and what I'll be going through today with the Food Innovation Challenge. But we're also looking at creating community and an ecosystem to really foster those connections and facilitate partnerships, hopefully that will drive innovation, productivity, employment, revenue growth, and all those great things for your individual businesses and organizations. What do our members care about? It's a diverse set of priorities and interests, anything from food processing to cybersecurity. We will look at retail and e-commerce. We'll look at kitchen technology, packaging, food processing, new and novel ingredients, such as, even plant-based proteins or the development of cellular meat and precision fermentation, and then into, the real nuts and bolts of the industry, like food safety. So it's a varied set of interests and topics, and certainly something I think for everyone. And our Food Innovation Challenge is sort of our hallmark program. And we have funding to deliver this program from now until March of 2025. And this is our second call. In our first call, we distributed just under $3 million worth of funding. And the Food Innovation Challenge is a collaborative program open to any CFIN members that offers 50% funding up to $2 million. And we're looking for breakthrough food innovation. We're looking for stuff that is novel, that's solving an industry problem, and we're really looking to help it along its research, development, or commercialization continuum. So we want to help take these technologies and get them closer to market. Our food innovation challenges will have themes. Our first call didn't have a theme. A brand new organization, it was hard to get overly prescriptive about what we were looking for. We wanted to see what industry would submit and bring forward. And we did receive over 30 submissions on that first round, and in the end had 2 projects move to full approval. And I expect this round to be maybe a little different because we are offering some, rules or a program theme to what we're looking for. And so again, the theme: digitization and digitalization solutions that create safer, more secure, more agile food supply chains. I mean, I don't know if I really need to go into what the last 36 months have looked like or what the rationale behind a call like this might be. But the reality is we've seen a huge amount of volatility over the last decade, the last 36 months with, anything from atmospheric rivers to COVID-19 shutdowns to, pending global commodity shortages with the war in Ukraine. There's just so many challenges, and it's been anything from, production interruptions, facility closures, the lack of certain ingredients or critical components, major labor shortages, and just generally rising costs that are ultimately being realized by consumers. And so we're looking for, I'm going to say supply chain 4.0, but I think a lot of us aren't even at supply chain 3.0 yet. I think this is an area of emerging technology, but, we're looking for projects that enable food sector resilience through supply chain solutions to allow businesses to react to evolving consumer requirements or supply availability, and just generally drive better efficiencies through the supply chain. So the idea is, how can we help Canadian businesses move products faster with more flexibility, better granularity on data, and with less risk of disruptions? And some potential innovation areas for this call, and this is not meant to be exhaustive or even prescriptive. This is just some thoughts on some of the technology we believe might get proposed to us. And I'm sure when I get letters of intent, I'll learn about a few more that are emerging in this space. But things like blockchain, digital ledgers, use of Internet of Things and sensors and tools in warehousing or on production floors, wearables for warehouse staff or pickers, for lack of a better word, use of Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and 5G technologies, cloud computing, artificial intelligence and machine learning, data analytics, autonomous material handling or robotic process automation, or digital twins. This is just potential. Your project could have elements of this. It could touch on a couple. It could be about something, again, completely different, but still novel. And so please don't take this as I'm not doing blockchain, so, CFIN doesn't want my submission. That's not correct. But our key program priorities are the following. So we're looking for projects that will allow the food sector to take advantage of enhanced data capture and management capabilities, that look at predictive analytics and demand planning, that automates the physical flow of goods, that supports the rise of digital ordering and e-commerce, things that might drive the improved capacity utilization in food processing, so whether it's by monitoring output levels or utilization in an existing group of businesses or facilities, for example. And of course, things that enhance or drive food safety and traceability throughout the supply chain. All of the projects should be looking at a post-farm gate type activity. So while we appreciate that there's a ton of activity to be done on the farming level, our sort of focus is more on the value added portion of the sector. And so we're looking for post farm gate. Your project or your technology could apply on the farm, but just please know when we're looking at benefits and the interest of CFIN is on that post farm gate stage, as there are some other organizations in Canada that have funding for farm level digitization and those types of technologies. And if you want to learn learn about those groups, feel free to reach out to us and we can point you in the right direction. We're looking for things that result in cross-firm solutions. So ideally, something that a business could use throughout their supply chain or in working with their suppliers to not just, impact my own business, but, by tapping into a solution, I might get data, be able to integrate my data outside of my own business or tap in again to sort of tools that a retailer might be able to access multiple points through the supply chain. And then something that is accessible to small and medium-sized enterprises. We want the solution to be something that is sort of tangible to small business and that could be potentially accessed by them if your project is successful. So how much funding is available? We provide funding at 50% as a grant contribution up to a maximum of $2 million for our challenge projects. So that means you should be building a project between $1 and $4 million. So it can be $500K that you request from us right up to the $2 million. We provide our funding on a reimbursement basis. So your money is not provided to you up front. We don't do advances. You need to have a way to bridge these expenses. It could be that you are leveraging some financing from a group like FCC or BDC, or you've got a parent company or investors, or you're a revenue generating business and this is an additional R&D project for you. If your application is successful, CFIN does require a non-refundable project management fee of 5% of the total eligible project costs. So if you have a $4 million project and you get $2 million from us, your 5% fee ends up being about $200,000. That's the biggest fee we would charge. We do that because we have to generate some non-government money as part of our operations, and it's how we go ahead and do that. So running these programs, staffing up an organization does have costs, and that helps cover it. But it's only charged if you're approved. There's no cost to submit, and like I said, no cost to be a member. The total funding for this particular call is up to 2.5 million. So if we have great submissions and projects to fund that utilize the full envelope of that, we will use it. We do sometimes have flexibility to allocate a little more if we think there's a really good opportunity. But at this time, we've budgeted 2.5 million, and that could be for 3 projects, 1 project, or I guess 2 projects. We're not really sure yet. We always have to see what we get in terms of submissions. Who's eligible? So our food innovation calls are collaborative, and these collaborative R&D approaches are more and more common. If you've ever looked at any of the super cluster funds, you'll note that they often are requiring multi-party projects where there are shared goals and financial investment by all partners. So here we're talking about multiple unaffiliated organizations who are going to partner to address or achieve an innovative solution. So one partner could be a technology developer and the other could be a test bed. So it could be you, the supply chain technology vendor, and Loblaws. Or it could be 2 technology developers who maybe one makes a sensor and one makes the software, and they're going to combine forces, create some joint intellectual property, go to market together if they're successful. And maybe they might even have a Loblaws or a test bed or a food processor involved in them. So it can be as many groups, parties as you want. We've had some collaborations come in with 8 or 9 collaborators. Doesn't have to be that big either. The minimum is 2 private sector organizations partnering together, of which one is a small or medium-sized business. These businesses must be incorporated and operational in Canada. Doesn't matter if your ownership is international or if you are owned by a larger multinational, as long as the businesses themselves are incorporated and operate here, that's fine for our requirements. And of course, you need to become a member of CFIN. If you're a university or college and you want to participate in a collaboration, that's fine. Our collaborations must be industry-led. So my lead applicant does need to be a business, like an incorporated business. But the partners in an application or another partner could be a university or college. keep in mind that if you are forming a collaboration, generally you will all be intent on incurring some expenses under this project and submitting them to CFIN for reimbursement. What you really want to do is one of you wants to apply and you want to pay the other person to do a whole bunch of services or to deliver some of the R&D activities, that is not a collaboration. That is a service provider relationship. And so we don't allow billing between partners in a collaboration. Both partners can come to the table and say, well, I'm spending $200K and I'm spending $200K, and we each want to get that funded. That's fine. But what you can't come and do is I want to spend $200K and I want to bill partner B another $200K. And if this is confusing, or if you have a proposed collaboration and you want to chat about it, my contact info is going to be on the last slide of this webinar. And we have 4 regional innovation directors right now located across Canada. And we're all happy to meet with you and talk to you about how to structure your collaboration so that it meets our requirements and suits your project needs. So we get that these rules can be a bit funny, and we're not trying to stifle or be a barrier to your project, but there are some rules that we have to follow and pass along to you as one of our applicants, and you also have to follow them. Maybe before I continue a step further here, I'm just going to look at the Q&A. So I'm going to answer just a few questions before I get too further. Is this funding in the form of grants, loans, or investments? So that's a great question. The answer is our funding is a grant. So that's why it's on a reimbursement basis. You incur the expense, you submit it to us every quarter. We reimburse you at 50% in the form of a payment. So it is a grant. It's not a loan. We're not taking an equity stake or any ownership activity in your project or business. Do all project applicants have to be members or only the lead applicant? Every applicant has to be a member. And the way our application form is set up is that you can actually invite your collaborators to then participate in the application and complete their own applicant profile and sign up for their membership. So everyone needs to be a member, and we will be checking. And if you don't have it complete, well, to be honest, you'll have a hard time getting through our online submission process without everyone being a member. And someone's asking about stacking rules and what we allow. I am going to address that later, but yes, we do allow stacking. And then the second portion of the question is, how do we view in-kind contributions? That's a great question as well. I'm going to address it when I get to our eligible costs. So what's an innovative project to CFIN? So I don't think we need much help these days communicating why better supply chain visibility might be urgent or important in the food sector. I think with rising costs, not only of key ingredients, but also of labor and also of freight and logistics, I don't think that that's much of a challenge here. So, can you demonstrate that your solution is addressing the urgency of that problem is something we're interested to know. Transformative. A big element of a transformative piece of R&D is its accessibility. So it's hard to transform on a pilot scale development and that never makes it past the 3 collaborators. So a big element that we ask you in the submission is, how do you plan to make this accessible? If you're, for example, a supply chain technology company and you're working with a large retailer, and now, the project's complete, you made this great piece of technology, CFIN helped you do that. How is it then available to others? Are you going to sell it? Does your retailer have an exclusivity agreement in their category for a certain period of time in their region? We want to understand what that agreement might look like and how this will then get spun out. So if you're trying to create something to solve your own problem, and you don't have a mechanism or a way to make that technology more accessible to other enterprises, then you might find that that's a real risk to your application when you're coming to our Food Innovation Challenge programs. For example, our 2 announced winners. One is a robotics company that is making robots for food service. So When they are done this project, if it's successful, they're going to take those innovations to market. And the other is a food safety technology developer. Same thing. When they are done their project, they're going to take that to market. So how you're going to get this out of your business and into market, accessible to other CFIN members and other food industry stakeholders, is very important. Risky. I mean, is there an element of risk? What is the technical innovation? What are you trying to accomplish? And how is it innovative or different? If you are just trying to create something that already exists and is well proven, probably not going to fare well when we look at our, market analysis. And, we're also looking for projects that might, result in new IP should you be successful. And then, of course, necessary. This is a solution that will solve actual food industry problems. So what are we funding? We are here to fund research, development, and demonstration projects. So if you want to purchase an innovative piece of technology out of Europe, say a great supply chain solution that's going to solve all your problems, and it's already proven and many other companies are using it in Germany or in Europe, and now you want to be the first person to install it in Canada, that is not a research, development, or demonstration project. That's a capital investment project. So that won't work with us. We are looking for projects that involve research and development at the technology readiness levels of 1 to 7. And 8 and 9 components, we will only consider them if there are other activities in the project. So when I talk about TRLs, if you're unfamiliar with them, we do discuss them in our program guide, but this is a sort of a continuum of R&D. One is, we've got an idea, we've got some basic principles observed or reported. And 9 is, I've got a solution, it's proven in market, and there's no actual real R&D left. So 8 and 9, where we have qualified a solution and it's now successful and in market, those are not the only, we'll look at those activities, but only if we're helping you move a research or an innovation through other TRL levels. And we will ask you in our work plan and throughout your application to help us understand where you think the work is at the moment and where you're looking to get at the end of the project. So that advancing through the TRL levels is part of the research, development, and demonstration activities that we'll look at funding. And, if you're coming and saying, I want to buy this piece of equipment from Germany, and I'm going to, it's proven in its use, either in the food industry or in another country, those are activities that fall at the 8 and 9 level. So that's why, that R&D element is quite important, because it's usually where you're doing activities from 1 to 7. So what are some of the costs that we'll fund? We're pretty open. We'll look at salaries or direct labor of technical staff time on the project. We'll look at consultants and subcontractors, direct materials, equipment, land and buildings, and travel. I will note that any of the items you submit to us have to be fairly clearly rationalized to why, to this project. So if you're developing a piece of supply chain technology, and you need to buy a $1 million building, I'm probably going to wonder how those two things are related. And so a good case for why they are better be made. We do not cover in-kind contributions. So that was one of the questions we received so far in the QA. We don't recognize them either. We will look at partners who are contributing cash. So for example, if you have 2 partners and you each want to spend 200,000 and you're coming together, you're each going to spend this 200K. So partner 1, 200K, partner 2, 200K. The cash contribution that you're each making in that case is the portion of your expenses that CFIN's not going to cover. So you can submit 200K worth of expenses in any of these categories, and we will fund 50% of them if you're approved, and your cash contribution is the remainder. So those costs that you're incurring, the leftover that's not covered by us. We also, on top of our labor number, so if you build out $100,000 worth of labor in a project, we top it up with 55%. And it's really, we call it indirect costs, but it's an overhead coverage. That's going to cover C-suite and project admin or project management labor. So you don't want to put project management in your direct labor because I'm giving you 55% over and above your labor on to cover that. Please don't put your C-suite staff. I appreciate that your startup may just have a CTO, but we are not allowed to fund it. And it is a challenge for us. If you put those items in, we will be asking you to revise your budget. But it also covers your consumables, your, AWS, Amazon Web Service monthly license, or whatever tools like a laptop that you might need to do the work. So a lot of those small consumables and sort of ancillary administrative costs fall under our indirect, and it's usually where people fall into trouble with our budget. All of the project costs have to be incurred by the project applicants and partners. If you are a subsidiary and you are thinking about applying, we consider parents and subsidiaries as the same. So if you're a parent and you have a subsidiary and you're both incurring costs, we consider it as being under the same unit. And that's convoluted, but I can explain it further. It's part of our affiliated persons clause in our program guide. And a full overview of what's eligible is found in our program guide. And I definitely recommend reviewing what line items we will consider ineligible, things like sales and marketing costs, or even consultants around safety and safety standards, like around robotic safety or things like that. Those things are also considered ineligible. So I do recommend a quick review of that. In terms of how to apply, our application is two-phased. So the letter of intent is open now on our application portal, which is listed on our website, and I'll post it in the chat as well. The letter of intent is really an early draft of the application. It has all the same questions as the full proposal, pretty much. We're looking to understand that your proposal is in scope, that you meet the basic requirements of the challenge, and it will allow us to review it. And if you're invited forward, we're going to give you some feedback to identify any areas of weakness or ambiguity so that you can address that in your full proposal. The letters of intent are due pretty much a month from today. So don't be afraid about that. I know it comes up quick and collaborations are hard to form overnight. The budgets should be detailed so that we can assess that they're eligible, but they can be estimates. And your collaborations don't have to be fully confirmed or signed at this time. If you've got some interested parties and you're going to work on even getting some more as you move through the review process, that's quite acceptable. It's common for us to see even a different set of collaborators through the first and second phase. So we might see a couple drop off and a couple new ones be added. That's fine. But we are looking for you to at least have reeled in one collaborator and to build out your costing and your budgets. Your collaborators can be existing clients. They can be pilot partners who are interested in your technology but never bought from you. They just have to be a Canadian business. Any of our selected applicants that pass this sort of letter of intent phase will then be invited to submit a full proposal, which is really the chance to rework your letter of intent, to address the feedback, and then you're going to be asked to give us a much more detailed budget, and your collaborations should be more firm, ready to sign if approved. So you don't have to have them locked into agreement, but be aware, if we approve you, you're going to get 30 days for everyone to sign a contract with us, and so they better be close to that stage. And it may be that your collaboration is asked to present your project to our Innovation Advisory Council as part of the final decision-making process. And we would schedule a session. You'll be given about 15 minutes to present and answer questions. And that will be for invited proposals and sort of in the final stages of the process. So our key dates. Our letter of intent application opens on June 1st. So it's been open for about a week. Our letters of intent are due July 7th at midnight, and the invitations to our successful letter of intent will happen in early August. And then full proposals will be due on the 16th of September this year. And we're looking for projects that would start as of November 1st, 2022 and finish by March 31st, 2025, which is when our fund sunsets. So those are your timelines. And again, encourage you to reach out to us if you do have some questions, or if you're thinking, you might have a project. If you don't want to waste your time, or if you want some advice, we have 5 staff ready to speak to you and happy to go through this call and, give you some comments about what would strengthen it or what we think our reviewers might have issue with, etc. So how are your applications scored? So for our Food Innovation Challenge, we use this scoring rubric. You'll see the bulk of the points are given to the benefits to Canada. We want to understand what those innovative aspects of the project are. We want to know how this aligns to our call. And so our CFIN Food Innovation priorities, we have 3 of them, but for this particular call, it's all under agile and safe supply chains. We want to understand what your knowledge transfer and commercialization plan, how do we get this out to members, and what are the benefits for the food and beverage industry. Another element here around project details, we are looking to understand that you've got, fairly good plan, a competent team, and you are actually undertaking an R&D initiative. For the letters of intent, they are scored internally. And external reviewers will be engaged to provide comments and insights on what elements they feel could be strengthened if invited to a full application. We give that feedback to successful letters of intents, and we note to them how they can address any of our concerns or any gaps in their original submission, as well as tell you, hey, these are the elements that were really compelling to us. And when we get the full applications, they're reviewed by our staff just for the cost eligibility. Does this meet our requirements? If we approved it, are we going to be able to actually pay out on these costs, et cetera? And we bring together external experts under NDAs and confidentiality agreements to do technical and market assessments. And the final decision is made by our Innovation Advisory Council, who reviews all the scoring and the submissions and will recommend an approval or a next step to CFIN's board of directors, who will then ratify that decision. So a fairly rigorous process, and we do try throughout that process to give you as much feedback as possible to set you up for success. So it is important to us that we point you along and encourage you to address any weaknesses and see if we can just have the strongest submissions possible. So in terms of some key elements, usually around research and innovation and government funding, of course, it's quite possible, and it's of great interest to us, that projects might result in new intellectual property. That doesn't necessarily mean patents. It could mean patents, but it could also be trade secrets, different things like that. We will not own or take any stake in IP created from its funded projects. However, we do require that all of our applicants adhere to the same contribution as our organization in our own funding agreement, which is that any IP deriving from our funded projects must have their ownership and remain in Canada for a minimum of 5 years after the end of your agreement. So you're really looking at 2030. Any potential change in that needs to be flagged and approved by the minister, and it is done on a case-by-case basis. So it's not an area in which I'd say there's a ton of flexibility. So if you are owned internationally, or if you do have some concerns in that area, you're welcome to reach out to us, but it is a rule that we have to follow, and pretty much anyone who gets funding with us has to follow. And to be honest, anyone getting funding from the Government of Canada might run into that requirement in their funding agreements. What we really want is that the IP generated could be used to catalyze sort of economic and technological development in the Canadian food ecosystem. So like I said earlier, we're looking for that transferable, transformative element, the accessibility. where we want to see that IP will be disseminated or available to industry, even through a purchase agreement. Or maybe you'll be looking at licensing certain pieces of technology or things like that. So we're interested in knowing what your plans are in that area. And of course, what about stacking? So we're not the only fund in the world. You may have other tools in your toolkit that are backed by government. And so, yes, we do allow stacking. We do ask that you outline what government support programs you are leveraging towards the exact same line items. So for example, if you're going to use CanExport funding next year, I don't fund anything related to export development at CFIN, so it's irrelevant to me to know that you have CanExport funding. Similarly, I don't need you to list that you're going to get SHRED. We just want to know if you are, if IRAP's paying for some time on this project, or if MyTax is involved, or perhaps you have funding from NGen or another supercluster, and you're using those funds to cover some of the same costs that you're submitting to CFIN. Then we need to know that. But what's in your toolkit generally, around all your other activities, less relevant to us. And if you are looking to stack, especially with other federal funds, again, feel free to reach out to us. We can chat with you. I haven't seen any new questions come in, but I do welcome them if you have them. We're sort of approaching the end, and I'd be happy to take them. As a next step, if you go to our CFIN website, you'll see all the program details are posted there. The program guide is where you can find rules on the program generally. What do we fund? What are the eligible costs? What's our affiliated persons clause, etc. Your applicant guide and call details, that goes through every question in the application. It gives you the full details on the call, and it gives you the scoring rubric and sort of application process. So if you're thinking, oh, how do I answer these questions, for 20 points on innovation and transformation, what do I need to talk about? It's listed in the applicant guide, so you can use that to really drive your answering. All of our applications have to be submitted online through our Smart Simple portal. The application is live and accessible, and you cannot submit a paper application. And like I said, you got to be a CFIN member, and you can join via our website. Your access to the application will follow about 24 to 48 hours after you register as a member. It just takes us a bit to authorize you on our application system. So I mentioned we have a couple different staff who can assist you. I think I've got a few of them today. I don't know if they've been in the chat or not joining us. So we're a remote organization. We're serving the full range of the Canadian market, which is vast. And so we will have 5 regional innovation directors. We have a new one starting at the end of the month covering the prairies. If you are in the prairies and you want to talk to someone about your submission, my contact info will be on the next slide. But Lavina Gully covers British Columbia and the Yukon. Linda Fox covers Ontario. Julie Daigle covers Quebec. And if you are interested in submitting this application or viewing any of our materials, they are fully available in French on our website. And Julie did an info session yesterday with the same information that I've presented today in French. And then Tyson McInnes covers the Atlantic provinces. So all 3 of them, if you reach out to us at innovation@cfin-rcia.ca, you will be connected to your regional innovation director. And if you have any program questions, I'll be joining them or helping them answer any of those inquiries from you, and also happy to chat with you direct as well. I'm going to take a look at the questions in the chat. I invite you to submit some if you have any. But I am at the end of my talk for the day and what I was going to cover. So I do welcome again some questions if you have them, and I'm just going to go through here. So someone's asking, you know, we're on a journey to digitize our QA department, which will help us not just with automation, but food safety and traceability as well. So we're going to be using a lot of the technologies that I mentioned, you know, in my presentation. And this person's noting this is going to help us move our business along quite a bit. I would say, you know, probably that submission, it sounds like it's missing two elements. One is, where's the collaboration? So who are you partnering with and how are they helping you get this done? But also the transferability. So how does you making a lot of advances on automation around your supply chain help the wider industry? So it sounds to me like it probably wouldn't be a great submission. Someone's asked, there's some questions about our coverage on the 55% or the 5% on the 50%. I'm not quite clear what that question is. We do two elements perhaps that are confusing. So one is, on top of your labor, we automatically add 55%. So if you put $100,000 into your labor on your budget, we'll tack on 55%. And give you that to cover overhead, your facility lease, your consumables, pipettes, laptops, your Microsoft Word subscription, etc. We don't require you to claim those items or submit receipts for them. We just tack it on. It's a cost of doing business. For me to sit here and deliver this to you required a Zoom subscription. You know, I had a coffee, you know, all those sorts of little things that just are required to run a business and are ancillary to having staff. So that's our indirect cost coverage that we give. When your project is approved, CFIN will charge you 5% on the total eligible cost that you're asking us to fund as a project management fee. And we ask you to pay that before your project moves to reimbursement. So hopefully that makes this a little bit clearer. I'm still not seeing a ton of questions come in the question box. Someone's asking, are there any requirements that align to industry standards, i.e. GS1, in order to reduce costs and multiple suppliers? No, we do not have any requirements around that. Someone's asking, with the theme being digitization and digitalization, does this mean that only digital projects are products or projects maybe are eligible? Yes and no. So some things like sensors might not be a digital solution. They're a hardware solution, but they require a digital solution underpinning usually to be functional. So we're looking at technology solutions. It's probably going to be something that's digital as opposed to, you know, something that is exclusively, let's say, a wearable, or, you know, I think digitization and digitalization is fairly encompassing, but we are looking for the adoption of really, you know, computing technology and digital technology to supply chain challenges. Couple different questions here from people. Is there a way for us to find other CFIN members who we may be able to partner with? Yes, email us at innovation@cfin-rcia.ca, or some of our our regional innovation directors have been sharing their contact info in the chat. You're welcome to grab that info and contact the one closest to you. Like I said, if you are in the prairies, we don't have your regional innovation director yet, but my contact is on your screen and you're welcome to reach out to me. And our regional innovation directors will do our best to connect you. We're also later this month, although that may not be very helpful for you for this particular call, we will be launching a new digital platform called Yodel, which will allow members to come together, post what they're looking for, start discussions, create profiles of their organizations, connect with others a little bit more easily than just reaching out all the time to everyone. I see Eric Valaquette from the Canadian Blockchain Supply Chain Association is in the chat. Hi, Eric. Thank you for posting your organization's information. Eric's a great organization if you are looking at blockchain technology or associated elements to see if he can help make some connections. And it looks like a number of organizations are sort of posting some details in the chat as well. And I definitely recommend connecting with people on LinkedIn, and we will be sending a follow-up on after the session, just with the links to the program details and things like that. I'm not seeing any new questions. Looks like the chat's being active. I want to say thank you for taking the time. If this isn't necessarily up your alley after you've attended today's session, please share it with your networks. This is an interesting space, one in which I think is evolving rapidly. And I encourage you, you know, to, if not directly in this call, look at our other programs as well. So in addition to the Food Innovation Challenge, we currently have an open intake for our Innovation Booster. That's a single applicant program, so you don't need a collaborator, and it's to solve business challenges around food innovation. It could be around supply chain, it could be around automation, could be around a new ingredient. And the Innovation Booster is a smaller application with up to 100K in funding. So a little less complexity. If you've been looking at this and going, whoa, this is a lot to bite into, then the Innovation Booster might be a little bit more at your level. And like I said, is also accepting applications until July 7th. I do, again, highly encourage you to reach out to us, get connected with our team. We want to understand your business challenges. We want to help you advance in the area of food innovation. And with that, I'll give you all back 12 minutes of your day. This recording will be posted soon. Thank you so much. Have a lovely afternoon, everyone.